My name is Sylvia Hewlett and I am the owner of Core Fusion Pilates and Physiotherapy. We're a rehab studio and a physiotherapy clinic and Pilates studio based in Hillarys in Perth in WA. And we see heaps of clients who have suffered with either back pain or chronic pain or long-standing pain that they haven't been able to help, or they haven't been able to get lasting benefits from or lasting results from. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how we get our results and explain why Clinical Pilates works, because that's probably a big percentage of what we do and a big percentage of what we see, and not many people really understand what it's about. So it's different from standard Pilates. So if you're familiar with what I'm sitting on, which is a reformer, it's basically a machine that's got springs, it's got straps and attachments and obviously a foot bar, and it's a mobile bed. So what it allows us to do is exercise you in quite specific ways. It also allows just us to put you in positions that your body's maybe not quite as familiar with. So if we said go and do 20 squats, you'd know what squats are, so your body would just use what it's supposed to use because you've learned that from before. When we're doing something that's a little bit new, so a little bit like if you're not a swimmer and you decide to go swimming, you'll learn that new movement because it's not something that's familiar to you, whereas if you've been a swimmer from when you were little, you'll go straight back into your old style or old habits or old things that are a little bit more comfortable for you. So take somebody who's got back pain. One of the biggest complaints that people have when they have back pain is it hurts, and because it hurts you don't move, because you don't move you get stiff, and one of the things that we see is people trying to stand up. They might just try and get a little bit and then they try and straighten themselves up. So if you look at the action of standing up, my hips and my knees are at 90 degrees and I'm pushing using my legs to stand up and down, so I come all the way up straight and I come all the way back down. And what's actually happening is my hips and my knees and my feet are at 90 degrees. My back, everything else should stay relatively straight. What tends to happen is that you might take some weight off to the side, you might do this, you might find that you get here and you help yourself up your legs. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, it's the way that your body wants you to do it. The problem is that it hurts, so we avoid doing it, or we try and lean away from things that might hurt. So when you're coming in to see us, what we want to know is, why are you doing that? Is it because you're trying to stay very rigid because you don't want to move your back? Is it because your back doesn't move? Is it because you physically can't do it because everything is just in so much spasm? Or is it pain and it really is, it's the only way for you to get up is to be really, really braced? So obviously excuse me, the big thinking these days is that you should move. Everybody knows nowadays that the traditional, I've hurt my back, I go and lie in bed for 6 weeks and hopefully it'll get better. It's just not how we manage back pain these days. What we want to be doing is trying to get moving very quickly. But what does happen is if you are in pain is the pain stops you moving. Because you're in pain, you then don't move freely, and because you're not moving freely, you tend to get a little bit stiffer as time goes on. And obviously we're talking if people have that long-term pain, so you're talking over 3, 6 months, 1 year, into years. What basically has then happened is your body's changed and your body's adapted. So instead of you being able to use your body the way it's supposed to be moved and supposed to be used, you'll have certain muscles that just do too much. So you'll commonly hear, oh, my QL muscles are really in spasm, or my spinal muscles are really in spasm, or my hip flexors are really tight, or my glutes are very tight, or my hamstrings are very short. And they're all sort of compensation patterns that we see. And what happens is that because If you think about your muscles, you've got some deep muscles inside. They're what we call your posture muscles. So this is commonly what people say is your core muscles. And then you've got your big moving muscles. So things like your hip flexors, your glutes, your hamstrings, your back muscles. They may be the muscles that we use to move, okay? Not so much the muscles that should be used to hold us up as posture muscles. And what happens over time is that that's exactly what these muscles do. They become our posture muscles because our deep muscles have forgotten what to do, or they're very weak, or they just don't work anymore. And then our posture muscles, so these big moving muscles that are now our posture muscles, also hold us up as well as trying to help us move. So to break into that pattern, you need to be doing something different, you know. And if you've been going to your GP or you've been seeing somebody and they say you need to work your core, most people go, core, let's go to boot camp, let's go to class, let's go and do some planks. And all you're doing then is using these muscles even more and more and more, and you're not really addressing the muscles that we need to focus on, which is the deeper muscles that we forget. So think about what we do when we look at Clinical Pilates as just that. We're starting right at the beginning. There's no point having back pain for a long, long time and expecting that you can go from being in pain and you can't even stand up because it hurts to being able to plank and do boot camp. You know, that's too big a leap. So what we want you to do is feel that your body is able to move and you can exercise and you can function, but it should be pain-free. Because if it's not pain-free, your brain then goes, this hurts. So you have that innate resistance to it because we don't want to do things that hurt. We want to do things that feel good. So what we need to get you doing is moving in a way that you then learn is safe, and move in a way that you then learn is good, and move in a way that your body learns is comfortable and it's pain-free. And how we do that is through Clinical Pilates alongside stuff like your manual therapy or what we see. So when you come in to see us to start with, if you are struggling to get up out of the chair, we want to know why. Is it that, muscles are weak? So what you need is a bit of help because these muscles are weak. Is it because you just don't have the movement anymore because you've been sitting for a long time and actually these muscles are actually too tight, or these muscles are too weak that they're not allowing you to move? So that's the first thing. Are joints stiff? Do they not move because you haven't been moving, so you've lost a bit of mobility? Are your hamstrings tight so they don't allow you to move? Are things weak in certain places so that you're compensating, and the places you're compensating, like your QL, might be short and it might be tight and it might be actually quite strong? In which case, again, there's imbalances and muscle strength issues that we need to address. So if we go back to basics, if we've looked at you and your problem is that sitting to standing and it hurts, and we've identified that you've got some deeper muscles that aren't working, you've got some tight muscles that are doing a bit too much, you've got some tight muscles that are restricting you, and you've got some muscles that are just overworking to compensate for some weaker muscles. So that last little thing, that's the stuff that we do our hands on with. So we might do some manual techniques, we might do some stretching techniques, and that's also stuff you can do at home. So everybody knows people put tennis balls in their bottom, everybody knows we can do some hamstring stretches, or we can do some exercises to get our hips and our lower back more mobile. Specifically with Clinical Pilates, if your problem is sitting to standing, what we then might do is put you on a reformer. So when you sit to stand, as I've demonstrated before, your hips and knees are at 90 degrees, you take the weight forward, you stand up, and you sit back down, okay? Ideally, everything should stay relatively stable. Now, with people with back pain, you might go this way and brace, or you might go this way and walk up your legs. You might even go off to the side to take some pressure off and then stand up straight that way. So we need to know what your issue is, okay? When we then need to do is try and retrain that. So we might actually get you lying on the bed, and you can see now as I'm lying on the bed that my back is relaxed. I can relax my arms, so nothing is going to work in my lower back. But what I can do is work my legs. So I can press out and I can come back in. Okay? So what I'm doing here is what we call footwork on the reformer. Okay? And what's happening is I'm using the muscles at the back of my legs to try and get me to move and use the right muscles. I'm not doing it really, really quick, because then all I'm doing is activating those muscles differently. What I am doing is trying to push through my heels so that I get my hamstrings at the back of the legs working and keep my back nice and still, and I'm slowing the carriage down as I come in. I'm pushing through the legs to press away, and I'm coming all the way back in. Now I can do that feet together, I can do that on my toes, I can do that wide, and I can also then try, when I'm a little bit stronger, to do it single leg. Okay? And what that allows me to do is to start to teach my body that when I'm moving and I'm standing up, my back's nice and still. Now what tends to happen is if you're in pain is that you might go this way and grip. You might go this way and grip. Or you might just try and flatten and clench everything. And we want you to be as relaxed as you can be so that you learn all these muscles here don't need to do anything. We're just working through the legs, and we're teaching the body again how to bend at the hip and the knee without everything else coming into play. And that is basically what happens. So when you're lying down in that position, you have to use the deep muscles, because if I wasn't using my deeper muscles, my leg would just fall. Okay? If I'm not using my core muscles to stay nice and stable, then my back's going to be tipping and moving. So what we're trying to do is give the body something to do that's familiar, very similar to how we sit to stand, but you're doing it in a way that the body doesn't understand. The body hasn't got any preconceived ideas, so it's going to let you do it. So when you come out and you try and stand up, you should then be able to use those new muscles. And that is Clinical Pilates in a nutshell. What we're doing is identifying in you what muscles don't work well, what muscles do too much, what muscles are stopping you from moving normally, what joints and what posture sets, or what your posture's doing that's not quite 100%, and then we try and change that and give you the means to change that. So that what happens then is you're then learning how to move. So typically, you know, if you come in for a physio appointment, we might see you for 20 minutes, you get your hands on, you get this, and we say go away, do 3 sets of 10 at home, and then you come back and say, yeah, I've done it. Whether you have or not, we do know, because we can tell. But when you're coming in for a rehab appointment, we generally have you for about an hour. So what happens is, if we're finding that your muscles are a little bit tight, so you're moving, and we're saying what's going on, and you go, oh, my back's sore, what we can do is say, okay, give yourself a little bit of support. Does that feel any better? Let's put a heat pack under here. Let's put some tennis balls in here to release some tension. Let's take the spring off. Let's lift the headrest up, or let's put the headrest down. So if you're here and you're saying, look, that really hurts my back, then we can change how you're doing it and say, let's get you a bit more relaxed so you feel comfortable. And then what happens is, obviously your body starts to learn that's not such a scary place to be. It's not so bad pushing and moving. It's not so bad to actually use the muscles, and then your muscles start to function and they start to work. And then if you need to do something like that at home, then we can obviously give you a home version of it. So the home version I generally do is with your feet on top of the ball, so a big fit ball, and you're moving your legs in and out so that you can feel that it's very similar to what we've done here. And then progression wise, obviously we go from that to single leg. We might go from your double leg to single leg to under the bar to over the bar. We might then move to a side lying position where you're pushing single leg, side lying, and all of that allows you to start moving better. So when people ask, does Clinical Pilates work? Yes, it does. How does it work? It works because what we're doing is identifying what you need. Does it work for everybody? Generally, most people I think I've seen it has worked. Does it make you all pain-free completely? Most likely not, but it does allow you to move, and it does take your pain into a different level. So what we're asking is that your pain improves to allow you to function more. And if you obviously then carry on with that and keep on doing that, then obviously you continue to improve. What does tend to happen, which is across the board, is that once your pain frees up, you forget to start doing things, because pain's a really good reminder. So what happens is you go, oh, it doesn't hurt anymore, so you forget to do your exercises at home. What this style of rehab and this style of management does is it gives you the tools that if you start going, oh, I've got a twinge there, you know, actually that's a muscle twinge, I need to do this with it. Or that's a twinge because I've actually stretched it, so I need to do this, or it's tightened up. And you then don't have your episode of pain that lasts 3 weeks. You have your episode of pain that might last 2 days, because you've got the strategies and you've got the tools to help you. So what we're after is that you are able to identify when you get pain and why. You know what to do when you get that pain and how to do it. And you find that your episodes of pain, if you do have them, are further apart. And when they do occur, you get rid of them a lot more quickly. If you then can't self-manage, then obviously you come in and you see us. But we're hoping that you shouldn't be needing to be coming in and see us on a weekly, every, however long the normal strategies are. What we're hoping is that you have the management tools yourself, because at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. We want to be able to move. We want to be able to go out for dinner. We want to be able to go and say, sure, I'll go to Adventure World, or I'll go to, wherever it is, because you know that you can cope with it, or you can do your own stretches that you know you'll be able to manage. What you don't want to be is where you go, oh, if I do that, I'm going to be in bed for 2 weeks because I won't be able to cope and I won't be able to manage. So Clinical Pilates is really about not only fixing you in terms of the normal physio things with manual therapy and stretches and releases and mobilizations and every soft tissue things that we would also do, but it's about also then giving you the means to be able to work within that new range, but then also stay within that new range so you can use all those new muscles that you've now found. So your deeper muscles start to take over, which takes pressure off those big moving muscles, so they become mover muscles again. They don't become hold you up muscles and mover muscles, which is when a lot of the problems start. And that's really how it works and why it works. In terms of time frames, we would generally expect that if you're coming in to see us, you should be seeing some difference within a week or two. Like, you should have known within a week or two that something's changing, something's improving, and that you're feeling improvement through that. In terms of longer term, if you think of things like the Michelle Bridges challenge and all these weight loss, all these body weight challenges and things, they all last about 3 months, 12 weeks or so to 3 months. And the reason that they're that long is that it takes that long for the muscles to adjust. It takes that long for physiologically the muscles to adjust. So, you can't come for 2 weeks and go, it didn't work, because it won't work. All the things and all the studies and everything say it's going to take about 3 months for your body to learn a new pattern. It's going to take that long for the physiology of the muscles to learn a new pattern. And will you feel benefits within a week or two? For sure. If you're doing the right things and we've hit the nail on the head and we've targeted the right things, you should feel change within a week or two. Will you get lasting change if you just do it for 2 weeks and give up? No, you won't. It will come back, because what we need to do is change what's happening and how you're using your body, and also make sure that you're aware of how to do that in the best way. So, I think where, certainly in my experience, a lot of people fail when they've had chronic pain is that they expect too much too quickly. If your body has been moving in a certain way for years and years and years, it's going to take longer than 2 weeks to unravel that and learn new patterns. You're going to have to be giving your body at least a couple of months to look at where you are truly at, as opposed to saying, I've been in for 2 weeks and it's not made a jot of difference. You know, you're using your body 24/7. And our way of managing you means that you start thinking a little bit more about how you use your body 24/7, not do 3 sets of 10 twice a day, please, because that doesn't take into account what you're doing for the other 23 and a half hours. And that's really how our management is different. We do take into account that if you are struggling to move and you are in pain and you are in chronic pain, you need to be looking at your whole picture, what goes on day to day, you know, how you brush your teeth, how you sit in the car, how you sit at the chair, how you get dressed in the morning, how you sit at the office. Are you sat on the chair like this so your body's been braced, or are you like this on the chair? When you're sitting at home, are you sitting on one side of the couch? Are you lounging? Are you leaning on the other? Because all of that has an effect on how your body then deals with load and deals with stress and deals with how the tissues are functioning. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into how we function and how we move. And you know, we've been around for, as our business now, we've been around for about 10 years, and we've had really, really good results. And we tend to be the people that people come to when they've had no results elsewhere. They end up coming to us and wish they'd found us sooner. So come to us first, because we can get you better quicker and we can get you better sustainably longer. And you know, at the end of the day, what everyone wants is to have a means of management that is able to keep them better and lasting and solving their problems, so you know how to self-manage. You don't want to be coming back saying, I've got pain again, can you fix me? What we want you to go is, I've got a little niggle coming on, let's stop it getting worse now, before you have to come back and see us long term. Alright, Clinical Pilates, it does work. Hopefully, if you have any questions, feel free. You can email me at info@corefusion.net.au. Thanks for watching.